The champagne glass felt cold against my palm as Mira raised hers high above the dinner table. 20 guests turned their faces toward her, smiling, waiting. I knew that look in her eyes. It was the same look she wore before every performance. Every calculated moment designed to make me smaller. "A toast," she announced, her voice bright and sharp. "To my wonderful husband, Kalen, the man who married up and still managed to disappoint." Laughter rippled through the room. Like a wave, I couldn't stop. Her father, Baron, sat at the far end, nodding with approval, his thick fingers wrapped around his wine glass. "At least you tried, son," he said, his voice carrying across the table. "Maybe one day I'll get you a real job at my company." More laughter. I stood there, frozen, watching Myra's smile stretch wider. She loved this. She fed on it. My hands didn't shake. My face didn't move. But inside, something quiet and final clicked into place. I was done being humiliated. The apartment felt colder that night. Mira followed me into bedroom, still riding the high of her performance. "You look pathetic tonight," she said, kicking off her heels. Standing there like a kick dog. "It's embarrassing." I folded my jacket slowly, not looking at her. "I see," I said. She laughed. A sharp sound that cut through the silence. "You see? That's all you ever do. See, watch, wait. You're a burden, Kalen. I settled for you, and I'm tired pretending I didn't." Her words hung in the air like smoke. I watched the reflection in the mirror, noting every detail. The angle of her chin, the cruelty in her smile, the way she believed every word she said. "If you don't start acting like a real man," she continued, crossing her arms, "I'm filing for divorce. I'm done carrying dead weight." I nodded once, then walked to the closet. Behind a false panel I installed years ago, a small safe waited. I opened it and pulled out documents Mira had never seen. The papers felt familiar in my hands. Ownership certificates, board appointments, financial statements that stretched into billions. I built Titan Holdings from nothing. 13 years of silent work, while the world saw someone else's face. The public CEO, Harrison Wells, answered every question the press asked. But he answered me. I was the ghost founder, the invisible hand that controlled $52 billion in assets. And Baron, Myra's father, worked in the supply chain department, a mid-level manager who believed his position gave him power. I reviewed the company org chart on my laptop. Baron's name sat 3 levels down, buried under directors and vice presidents who reported to people who reported to me. His yearly performance review was scheduled for next month. I had to approve it personally. I closed the laptop and looked at the documents again. The restructuring proposal sat unsigned on my desk downtown. Baron's department was flagged for efficiency improvements. I picked up my pen. It was time to stop hiding. My lawyer, Philip Strand, met me at his office early the next morning. He was a sharp man with gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. "You want to separate finances," he said, scanning the documents I brought. "That's going to raise questions." I nodded. "Let it." He worked quietly for an hour, pulling records, checking accounts, tracing transactions. When he looked up, his expression had changed. "Kalen, she's been hiding debts. Personal loans, credit cards, luxury purchases. She's using your money to fund a lifestyle she can't afford." I leaned forward. "How much?" "Nearly $400,000. And there's something else." He slid a purchase agreement across the desk. "She forged your signature on this. A car lease under your name. $30,000 down." I stared at the signature. It looked like mine, almost perfect. "Almost. Do you want to press charges later?" Philip asked. I thought about it. Then I nodded. "Keep that option open." 2 weeks later, Mira hosted another gathering. I stayed upstairs, listening to voices float up from the living room. Her friends filled the space with laughter and gossip, their voices sharp and loud. "Honestly," Mira said, her voice cutting through the noise, "I'll be upgrading husband soon. This one's been a practice round." Her friends erupted into laughter. "God, Mira, you're terrible," one of them said. "What does he even do all day?" "Nothing," Mira replied. "He sits at home, pretends to work, and begs me for money. I'm the one keeping this household afloat. I stood in the hallway, my phone recording every word. Another friend chimed in. You should have left him years ago. I know, Mira said, but I felt bad. You know, charity case and all. The laughter continued. I stopped the recording and saved the file. Then I sent it to Philip with a single message. Evidence file 2. Myra's voice drifted up again, lighter now, performative. Anyway, Daddy says he might get Kalen a job soon. Something entry-level. If he's lucky. The shift happened slowly. I stopped reacting. When Mira mocked me, I nodded. When she demanded explanations, I gave short answers. When she tried to provoke me, I stayed calm. It unsettled her. What's wrong with you? She asked one evening, standing in the kitchen. You're acting weird. Nothing's wrong, I said. She squinted at me, searching for weakness, for cracks in the armor. You're planning something, she said. I know you. I smiled just a little. Am I? She turned away, frustrated. Later that night, I checked the sync devices. Myra's phone automatically backed up to cloud, a setting she forgot about years ago. I scrolled through her messages. One stood out, sent her closest friend, Candace. Gearing up to take everything in the divorce. He won't see it coming. I'll destroy him. I screenshot the message. Then I forwarded it to Philip. The plan was forming, piece by piece, like a puzzle I'd been solving in silence for months. I used my authority to request an internal audit of Barron's department. It was standard procedure, nothing unusual. Companies ran audits constantly to maintain efficiency and compliance. But this one had teeth. The auditors worked quietly for 2 weeks, combing through expense reports, vendor contracts, and budget allocations. When the preliminary report landed on my desk, I read it twice. Fraudulent expenses, vendor kickbacks, inflated invoices. Barron's signature appeared on dozens of questionable transactions. Nothing massive, nothing that would trigger alarms on its own. But together, the pattern was clear. He'd been skimming for years. Small amounts had added up to significant losses. I forwarded the report to the compliance team with a single instruction. Continue investigation. Prepare full findings. That evening, Mira sat across from me at dinner, smiling. Daddy says he'll help get you a job soon, she said. He's got connections, you know. He's important at his company. I nodded, cutting into my food. That's kind of him, I said. She didn't notice the ice in my voice. Through one of my shell companies, I purchased a building to house Myra's favorite boutique cafe, the place where she spent hours every week, gossiping with friends, planning her next move against me. The transaction was clean and quiet. The previous owner wanted out, and my offer came in above market value. Easy. I contacted the property manager, a woman named Felicity who handled several of my holdings. Start tenant reviews. I told her, standard procedure. Lease renewals are coming up. Make sure everyone's in compliance. She understood immediately. Of course, Mr. Kalen. I'll begin this week. Mira mentioned the cafe that evening, excited about some new dessert they added to the menu. It's the only place in the city that gets it right, she said. I'd be devastated if it ever closed. I looked up from my laptop. That would be unfortunate, I said. She didn't catch the weight in my words. She never did. The cafe's lease was up for renewal in 3 months. I made a note in my calendar. When the time came, we discussed terms. Philip called me on a Thursday afternoon. We have a problem, he said. Mira took out a loan. A big one. $200,000. I sat up. Using what is collateral? That's the issue. She used falsified financial statements. Listed herself as a primary breadwinner. Claimed assets she doesn't have. And forged documents to make it look legitimate. I felt the anger rise, cold and sharp. How did she think that would work? She's anticipating a divorce, Philip said. She thinks she'll walk away with half of everything you have. She assumes you're almost broke, so she's building a financial cushion for herself using fraud. I was quiet for a moment. Then I asked, can we freeze her accounts? Legally, yes. Under suspicion of spousal fraud and financial misconduct. It's a protective measure. I didn't hesitate. Do it. Kaylin, this will escalate things. Good, I said. Let it escalate. The freeze went into effect within 48 hours. I prepared for the storm. Barron showed up at my door on a Saturday morning, his face red, his voice loud. "Where the hell do you get off freezing my daughter's accounts?" he shouted, pushing past me into the apartment. I closed the door calmly. I didn't freeze her accounts. The court did, due to suspected fraud. Fraud. He laughed, bitter and sharp. She's the only one in this marriage with any money sense. You're dead weight, Kaylin. She's tired of carrying you. I stood by the door, hands in my pockets. Is that what she told you? That's what I see, he snapped. He stepped closer, his finger jabbing toward my chest. You should be grateful she hasn't left you yet. You're pathetic. He reached for my keys on the table, trying to take them like I was a child being punished. I stepped back, just out of reach. Is that so? I asked quietly. Something in my tone made him pause. His hand hovered in the air. What? Is that so? I repeated. He stared at me, confused. Then he turned and stormed out, slamming the door behind him. Mira woke up Monday morning and tried to buy coffee with her credit card. Declined. She tried another card. Declined. Then another. All frozen. She came home furious, her face pale, her voice shaking. What did you do? She screamed. What the hell did you do? I looked up from my laptop. I protected our assets. Our assets? You don't have any assets. I stayed calm. The court disagreed. She grabbed her phone, dialing frantically. Barron answered on the second ring. I could hear his voice through the speaker, loud and angry. He's trying to destroy the family, Barron shouted. I'll handle this. Mira hung up and turned to me, her eyes filled with rage. You're going to regret this. I didn't respond. Later that afternoon, a message appeared on my company email. Barron had filed a formal complaint against the useless son-in-law employee, demanding my termination from position he thought I barely held. I forwarded the complaint to Harrison. His response came in seconds. This is gold. What do you want me to do? I smiled. Let it proceed. For now. Harrison called me from his office, barely containing his laughter. Kaylin, I just read the complaint. A mid-level manager is trying to get the founder fired. This is the funniest thing I've seen in years. I leaned back in my chair at home. What did he say exactly? He claims you're an embarrassment to the company, that you're lazy, that you don't deserve your position. He wants you terminated immediately. Harrison paused. He doesn't know, does he? No, I said. He has no idea. This is going to be beautiful, Harrison said. What's your play? I thought about it. Barron's complaint was officially on record now. It would follow the standard investigation process, moving up the chain of command until it reached someone who actually understood who I was. Let the complaint proceed, I said. Follow protocol. Investigate it properly. You want me to drag this out? Exactly. Let him think he's winning. Harrison laughed again. You're cold, Kaylin. I love it. The complaint would take weeks to process. Barron would feel powerful, vindicated, and then the truth would crush him. The confrontation happened in front of our building, in the parking lot where neighbors could see. Mira came home from a failed shopping trip, her card still frozen, her frustration boiling over. She found me by my car, unlocking the door. You're destroying me, she screamed. Everyone knows what you did. You're embarrassing me in front of my friends, my family, everyone. I stayed calm, my hand on the car door. I'm protecting myself. Protecting yourself? She laughed, bitter and sharp. From what? You're nothing without my family. You're nothing without me. She stepped closer, her voice rising. Then she shoved me, both hands against my chest. I stumbled back, catching myself against the car. You're nothing, she repeated. Several neighbors had stopped, watching. One of them, an older man named Hugh, who lived on the third floor, held up his phone. He was recording. Mira didn't notice. She kept shouting, her voice echoing off the buildings. When she finally stormed inside, Hugh approached me. You okay? He asked. I nodded. I'm fine. He held up his phone. I got all of that. Want me to send it to you? I smiled. Please. Mira filed for divorce 3 days later. She walked into the apartment with a smug smile, holding papers in her hand. I'm done, she announced. I'm filing, and I'm taking half of everything you have. I looked up from my laptop. Half of what? She laughed. Whatever pathetic savings you've managed to scrape together. I want it all. You're going to be ruined. I stayed calm. You think I have savings? I know you do. You're hiding money somewhere, and I'm going to find it. She tossed the papers onto the table. My lawyer says I'm entitled to half, so get ready to lose everything. I picked up the papers, scanning them. Then I looked at her. Your lawyer's wrong. She crossed her arms. We'll see about that. Then she leaned forward, her voice dropping. My father knows people in your company, Kaylin. Important people. He'll make sure you never work again. I met her eyes. Does he? She blinked, confused by my tone. But she didn't ask. She just turned and left, confident she'd already won. Barron stormed into Harrison's office without an appointment, demanding answers. Harrison's assistant tried to stop him, but Barron pushed past, his voice loud enough to echo down the hall. I want that useless son-in-law fired, Barron shouted. He's destroying my daughter, and I won't stand for it. Harrison sat behind his desk, calm and composed. He pressed a button on his phone, starting a recording. Mr. Barron, Harrison said, I'm afraid I can't terminate employees based on personal grievances. Personal? Barron slammed his hand on the desk. He's incompetent. He doesn't contribute anything. This company is better off without him. Harrison nodded slowly. I see. And you believe you have the authority to make that determination? I've been with this company for 15 years, Barron snapped. I know how things work. I know who matters. He leaned forward, his voice sharp. Your leadership is weak. You let people like him slide by while real workers suffer. Harrison's expression didn't change, but he sent me a text under the desk. Ready? I replied immediately. Yes. Barron continued his rant, insulting upper management, questioning decisions, demanding action. He had no idea every word was being recorded. No idea the people he insulted were my appointments. I signed a restructuring order on a Wednesday morning. Barron's department would undergo a full review effective immediately. His entire team would be reassigned temporarily while investigators examined every transaction, every expense, every decision made under his authority. The order was clean, professional, legal. It followed standard corporate protocol, but it had teeth. Barron's team learned about the investigation first. Their bonuses were frozen pending the review. Projects were halted. Morale collapsed. And they all knew Barron was the reason. I received reports throughout the day. Barron's colleagues stopped talking to him. His subordinates avoided eye contact. His supervisor scheduled a formal meeting for the following week. By Thursday evening, Barron called Mira, sobbing. I heard her side of the conversation from the next room. Daddy, what's wrong? Silence. Then her voice changed, sharp and angry. What do you mean, under investigation? More silence. This is Kaylin's fault. It has to be. He's trying to destroy us. She hung up and turned to me, her face pale. What did you do? I didn't answer. Myra's social collapse happened faster than I expected. Her friends started ghosting her, one by one. Invitations stopped coming. Group chats went silent. The women who laughed with her at my expense suddenly had no time for her calls. It wasn't magic. It was consequences. Philip had quietly reached out to a few key people, reminding them of transactions Mira tried to hide. Forged signatures. Borrowed money never repaid. Lies about her financial situation. Nothing illegal on our part. Just truth, delivered carefully. Then the cafe announced new ownership. A notice appeared in the window, professional and simple. Under new management. Lease terms under review. Mira saw it on a Friday afternoon. She stormed into the manager's office, demanding answers. Who bought this place? She shouted. The manager, a young woman named Paige, stayed calm. I'm not at liberty to discuss ownership details. I'm a regular customer. I deserve to know. Paige handed her a business card. If you have concerns, contact the landlord directly. Mira stared at the card. The name printed across the front made her freeze. Titan Holdings? She whispered. Mira drove to the building's management office, demanding to see the landlord. Felicity met her in the lobby, professional and polite. I'm the property manager. How can I help you? Mira held up the business card. I want to speak to the owner of Titan Holdings. Felicity smiled. The owner doesn't take meetings without appointments. If you like, I can schedule something for next month. Next month? Myra's voice rose. I'm a tenant in one of your properties. I have rights. You're not a tenant, Felicity corrected. The cafe is a tenant. You're a customer. Myra's face went red. I need to know who owns this building. Now. Felicity pulled up a file on her computer, scrolling slowly. Then she turned the screen toward Mira. Titan Holdings, LLC. Registered under private management. Chairman's office handles all major decisions. Myra's eyes scanned the document. Then she saw it. A single line buried in the corporate structure. Primary shareholder, Kalen Voss. Her breath caught. He owns this. Felicity took back the screen. Is there anything else I can help you with? Mira left without answering. Mira rushed to file for divorce the next morning, trying to beat me to it. She thought as she filed first, she'd control the narrative, control the assets. Her lawyer submitted the papers with confidence. But Philip was ready. He walked into court with a folder 3 inches thick. Evidence of forgery, recorded verbal abuse, hidden debts, financial manipulation, the loan taken out under false pretenses. Every lie Mira told, every document she forged, every scheme she built, it was all there, organized, time-stamped, verified. The judge reviewed the evidence in silence. Then he looked at Myra's lawyer. Your client has engaged in fraud. Myra's lawyer stammered. Your Honor, we weren't aware. Then you should have been. The judge interrupted. He turned to Mira. Your assets are frozen pending investigation. You're prohibited from accessing joint accounts, selling property, or making large financial transactions. Myra's face went pale. You can't do this. I just did, the judge said. She turned to me, her voice rising to a scream. You're ruining my life. I didn't respond. The court adjourned. Philip and I walked out together, leaving Mira in the hallway, her lawyer trying to calm her down. I sent the invitation a week later. Mediation meeting to discuss terms. Conference Room B, Titan Holdings headquarters. Mira and Barron both came, thinking it was about saving the marriage, about negotiating a settlement. They thought they still had leverage. Harrison met them in the lobby, guiding them to the elevators. They rode up in silence, Barron's jaw tight, Myra's arms crossed. The elevator doors opened on the executive floor. Harrison led them down a long hallway, past glass walls and sleek offices. Then he opened the door to the main conference room. Executives filled the space. Vice presidents, directors, department heads, all of them seated, all of them silent. At the head of the table sat me. Barron stopped in the doorway. What is this? Mira looked around, confused. Kalen, what's going on? Harrison stepped forward, his voice formal. Please have a seat. They sat slowly, their confidence draining. Harrison moved to the front of the room. Then he turned to me and said the words that changed everything. Chairman, we're ready to proceed. Myra's face went white. Barron's mouth opened, but no sound came out. I stood, facing them both. I built this company 13 years ago. I said, from nothing. Every department, every policy, every decision. I own it. I control it. I always have. Barron's voice shook. That's impossible. I gestured to the executives around the table. These people report to me. The CEO reports to me. You report to me. Myra's hands gripped the table. You've been lying this whole time? I've been silent. I corrected. There's a difference. I opened a folder and slid documents across the table. Barron, this is your misconduct file. Fraudulent expenses. Vendor kickbacks. inflated invoices, years of skimming. Baron's face turned red. I can explain. Don't. I interrupted. I turned to Mira. And you? Forgery, fraud, financial manipulation. You try to destroy me while living off my money. Myra's voice cracked. I didn't know. I didn't know any of this. I looked at her, my expression cold. That was the point. The room stayed silent. Baron slumped in his chair. Mira stared at the table, shaking. Harrison spoke next. Baron, you're demoted, effective immediately. Probation pending full investigation. Baron didn't respond. I stood. We're done here. Baron's demotion became official the next day. He was moved to a lower-level position with reduced pay, stripped of his authority, placed under constant review. His colleagues stopped speaking to him. His team celebrated quietly. Mira faced worse. The fraud charges moved forward. The district attorney's office opened a case, reviewing the forged documents, the falsified loan applications, the financial manipulation. Philip estimated she'd face at least 2 years in prison if convicted. One evening, she came to the apartment alone. She knocked softly, her face pale, her eyes red. I opened the door, but didn't invite her in. Kaylin, she said, her voice small. Please. I'm sorry. I didn't know. I didn't understand. I looked at her, this woman who spent years humiliating me, tearing me down, convinced I was nothing. You didn't know because you never asked, I said. You assumed. You mocked. You destroyed. She started crying. Please forgive me. I'll do anything. I shook my head. It's too late. I closed the door. She stood there for a moment, then left. I never saw her again. The divorce papers finalized quietly. No drama. No courtroom scenes. Just signatures and legal transfers. I left Mira with nothing except the debt she created. $400,000 in loans. $30,000 in forged leases. Legal fees that would follow her for years. Her friends, the ones who laughed with her, turned on her completely. She had no status now. No money. No protection. She became the cautionary tale they whispered about at parties. Baron blamed her for everything. He told anyone who would listen that his daughter destroyed their family, ruined his career, humiliated their name. Mira moved into a small apartment across the city. I heard she got a job at a call center. Minimum wage. No benefits. Baron stayed at the company. Barely. His probation lasted a year. He worked in silence, head down, invisible. The man who once threatened me became a ghost in his own building. I didn't gloat. I didn't celebrate. I just moved forward, finally free from people who never saw my worth. I moved into a new apartment overlooking the city, floor-to-ceiling windows, clean lines, silence. For the first time in years, I could breathe. I focused on rebuilding myself emotionally, filling the space Mira left with peace instead of chaos. Work continued. The company grew. But I approached it differently now. Not as something to hide behind, but as something I built and deserved to own openly. Messages came from employees over the weeks. People I helped over the years. People whose careers I supported, whose ideas I funded. They sent notes of gratitude, respect, support. One message stood out. Thank you for seeing me when no one else did. You changed my life. I printed it and put it on my desk. Then an invitation arrived. A global tech summit in Geneva. They wanted me to speak, not as the Ghost founder, but as myself. Kaylin Voss, chairman of Titan Holdings. The world was finally ready to see who I really was. I accepted. The auditorium in Geneva held 3,000 people. Investors, entrepreneurs, innovators, all of them waiting to hear me speak. I stood backstage, calm, ready. When they called my name, I walked out to applause. The lights were bright, but I could see faces in the crowd. People who knew my company but never knew me. I spoke for 30 minutes about self-respect, about quiet power, about building something in silence while the world doubted you. I talked about the importance of knowing your worth even when no one else sees it. The audience listened, leaning forward, taking notes. When I finished, the applause was thunderous. Somewhere across the ocean, Mira watched the broadcast alone in her small apartment. She saw the man she mocked standing on a global stage, controlling billions, respected by thousands. She saw what she destroyed, what she could have had. But it was too late. I walked off stage, free, untouchable, respected. The revenge was complete. Not because I crushed them, but because I built something they could never touch. I won by becoming who I always was, and they lost by never seeing it.